Coming up on Theater Talk. Oliver, have you met any royals?
Yeah, well, when William found out that I was going to play him, he invited me to Highgrove for a game of polo and a kebab. And we sat round and we just sort of chewed the fat, as it were, and he just told me, look, just make sure when you play me, have more hair, be as awesome as you possibly can. It was great. We had a great day.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Coming up, 3 actors from Charles III. But first, we're going to talk about some other royals now starring in the drop-dead great production of Once Upon a Mattress. We have with us Jackie Hoffman, who's playing Princess Winifred. Her co-star, John Lypsinka Epperson, who's playing Queen Agravina.
A role he was born to play.
Absolutely. And Jason SweetTooth Williams,
Yeah.
playing Prince Dauntless. Welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you all grow up knowing Once Upon a Mattress? I mean, it's a fun show, and I believe there was a TV version of it, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there was an everything version of it. I'm the one person on the planet who has never appeared in any version of this in school or camp. Everyone else has.
Mary Rogers Show, one of the, I think, just about the only Broadway musical Mary Rogers.
Which made Carol Burnett a star, and now is going to be, Jackie, you stop the show. You stop the show. You were wonderful.
She's been waiting all these years to be a star, and this is it, Jackie. It's fine.
This is it.
Now, John, wasn't this production your idea? Did you went to the Transport Group with this?
Kind of. I had been wanting to do this show again. I had been in it in college.
As Princess? As Queen Agravina?
No, I was in the ensemble. I played a character named Sir Studley, which is, of course, a joke. But Susan, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to correct you. Her name is Agravane.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I'm missing the whole joke. Agravane.
Yes. And Michael, just so you know, Mary did write another Broadway show that was not a success called
what was
Hot
that?
Spot.
Hot Spot.
With Judy Holliday.
Oh,
That's right. Who's directed this production now?
Jack Cummings, who's the artistic director of Transport Group. Jack Cummings the third.
Yes, you have to say the third.
Jack Cummings II, lousy. The third, genius.
Can you make the case that this is a somewhat neglected classic American musical? Is this why you were attracted to it? Is it underappreciated?
Well, one reason I was attracted to it is because there's a great part for me in it.
Oh, yeah, typical actor, right?
But I also wanted to see Jackie in this show, and wanted to see Jackie do her first lead, and wanted to work with Jackie again, which I had done with great pleasure in the past. And so I called her up and I said, have you ever thought about doing the show? And she was resistant at first, but I think she's
Long
having...
in the tooth, I said.
Yeah.
Long in the tooth.
But I think she's having a good time now,
Yes.
from what I can tell.
Make it mine.
You thought the show was long in the tooth? Old-fashioned?
I.
I've tried to be
That
polite,
was
Jackie.
my first, yeah. No, that's all right.
I do think the show is, I think it's undervalued, actually. You know, it's never listed in the
That's
list of the...
If you don't know him, that's a rave.
But I mean, you do it in that. You feel it's a cannily put together little show.
The score is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
and-
As good as anything her father ever wrote.
Really?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful music.
I knew Mary quite well, and she was one of the great dames of,
Yes,
of the
broad.
theater. Yeah, she was a broad. She was proud of being a broad. And I always wondered why she had never written much more than this and Hotspot. And she just found it impossible, being the daughter of Richard Rogers,
Lot to live up
carry
to.
on in his...
It was an identity problem, I think, that she wanted to forge her own identity and not be a composer. And so she got the gig writing Freaky Friday, and so she had this whole new identity as a book writer.
Yeah. Did you know her?
Well, I met her right after we did the concert version a couple of years ago. And she invited me to her apartment at the Beresford, and we had lunch, and she said, I want a full production.
Really?
And so that's what has led to what we're doing now.
Did you know her at all, Jackie?
I met her at the same time John did. I met her at the concert. Loved me. I didn't get invited to her apartment, but I'm sure that was an oversight.
Well,
She did come. I did a show at 54 Below, and she schlepped herself and her then ill husband, Hank Gittel.
Yeah, I knew him.
And they came to 54 Below, and she just was beaming like a proud mom.
I was in their apartment many, many times for cocktail parties and dinners. It was really, you really hadn't made it in the theater until you got on the Mary Rogers thing.
Salon,
Yeah,
yeah.
guest list.
That's a joke, Jackie.
All right.
Well, if-
I know I haven't made it in the theater. I'm on this show.
I want to just get background from all of you, since you're accomplished actors. What was the first thing you saw that made you fall in love with the theater, made you want to go into the theater?
Wow. The very first Broadway show I ever saw, which was really important to me, was the Who's Tommy, which I saw with my grandparents. I was here in New York. I'm from Connecticut. I was here for an audition, and I had a top hat. That's like how green I was. I brought a top hat to sing at this audition. Hello, Dolly, the title number from Hello, Dolly. Hello, Dolly, hello.
Boy, that's terrible.
It's terrible, absolutely terrible. But I was here, and they were like, "Do you want to see a Broadway show?" And I said, "Sure." They said, "Well, what do you want to see?" And I said, "The Who is Tommy." And they were like, "What? The Who is Tommy?"
How old were you?
What kind of a show queen are you?
Not a good one, apparently.
He's a heterosexual.
I can tell with the top hat. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, they took me to that, and it was, really life-changing for me. Michael Cerveris was,
Excellent. I remember that.
excellent. I was just like blown away. I'd never seen a production of that like scale either. I had seen like some things locally growing up, but I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
And John, for you go back a little ways before the Who's Tommy.
Yeah, you must have been a lot younger than me. I didn't realize that.
He was, but not anymore, right?
The first professional show I saw was a bus and truck one-night stand tour of Plaza Suite
Oh.
in Jackson, Mississippi, which was 30 miles north of where I grew up, a town called Hazelhurst, which if you ever saw Beth Henley's play Crimes of the Heart, it takes place in Hazelhurst.
Huh.
But my mother and I went to see Plaza Suite, and it was Betty Garrett and Larry Parks. And that was the first professional show I saw.
Good cast, though.
Now, John, you went to a Christian college, correct?
I went to a Presbyterian
college. How did you find your way, here into being Lypsinka in New York City?
Well, Mississippi was a little more liberal than it is now.
Really, yeah.
And the Presbyterian College was a lot more liberal than it is now. And they had shows there, and that's when I did Once Upon a Mattress. I was 17 and got cast, like I said, as Sir Studley, and got laughs and didn't know I was funny. So I think the audience was laughing at me. And so I thought, well, tomorrow night, which was the last night, I will make sure they laugh with me. And that's when I realized I could get laughs on stage.
That's when you became a performer.
And I started going to drag shows at the local gay bar there. And I enjoyed that. And I started seeing it as ridiculous theater. To me, it was no longer a drag show. I had been reading about Charles Ludlam. So I thought, well, why couldn't I go to New York and be a drag performer, and I can be in Time magazine like Charles Ludlam too. So that's what I did.
That's what you did.
And you, Jackie, were you a little girl growing up, wherever you grew up, listening to cast albums?
Actually, yeah, I was a gay man by the time I was 8. I'd memorized West Side Story and My Fair Lady, and the first production I went to wasn't until I was 11, and that was No No Nanette.
Oh.
Not the 1925.
No, the 71.
One, yeah.
That was supposed
Helen
to be a great,
Gallagher
and Ruby Keeler.
Ruby Keeler.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of it. Didn't you? See, this is not in your wheel.
I've checked out long ago.
But I remember pictures of people on big beach balls. You remember that?
Yeah, yes.
And Bobby
yes,
Van,
yes,
when the sea.
By the sea. He was so charming and sexy and adorable.
Yes, he was.
Oh,
I saw that.
And what was the first show that you did, though?
that
Professional.
I did?
Yeah.
Like, not Once Upon a Mattress. We're talking school, we're talking professional.
I'm curious though, what was the first one? When was as John said, he realized, I'm going to have them laugh with me. When was there a moment where you thought, this is good and I'm good at this?
in 4th grade, which was actually sort of a royalty production. 4th grade, there was a yeshiva production of Prince and the Pauper, so it was probably either all girls or... and I said, I salute your gracious highness. Be off, you crazy rubbish. Killed. That switch. I salute your great... Be off, you crazy rubbish.
And you're
the
still doing versions of
rolling in the
that.
aisle. Yes. My acting style has not progressed, but when something works, you stick with it.
And there you are in Once Upon a Mattress.
Formed.
I want to get back to your production before we go.
Please.
Why?
Isn't that why we're here?
Fabulous. And one of the wonderful, fullest things is the set, which is the artist Ken
Fallon.
drawing the scenery live backstage or something on it, and he's drawing the scenery and then adding stuff. It's so marvelous and creative. The whole thing is so joyful. Now, and I want to tell you my favorite moment. You come out of the swamp. No, there's 2 favorite moments. You're in one of them. The other one, you come out of the swamp and you sing Shy, which is marvelous, and you are over on the side so ecstatically in love with her. He's pulling your focus, but in a way.
What? Hello, equity.
Jason is great in the show.
Yes, he is.
I've never met Jason until this show, and I'm just in love with him.
Yes, he's the perfect
fantastic.
boyfriend for me.
Yes.
And this kind of production shows you don't have to spend $10 million to put on a musical.
And Transport Group is known for just out-of-the-box, incredible creativity on a shoestring budget. And that's what they've done. And using Ken Fallon to do these, we all say we like a fractured fairy tale kind of vision. And it's a very cartoony type of set. And everybody is incredibly funny. So it really works.
It's
There's
really
also
wonderful.
a great
And then
ensemble in the
you-
show. I have to say the ensemble is fantastic in the show, and they're so hardworking, and they're so happy to be there.
Yes. And then you and your evil song and your wonderful costumes. Did you have input into your costume?
I did.
Yes, I
It was contractual.
Well, I don't know. There's rumbling around town that it might move to a bigger theater at some point.
Well, it should move. It should move. It's quite wonderful.
Then you guys can
I want to hear that rumbling.
Yeah, now we only hear the rumbling of the F train.
Because you're down at the Abrons Arts Center, which
is accessible. You can get there.
It's part of the Henry Street, but it's renovated, a very hip performing spot that's doing really a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, it's the centennial of the theater, too. It's their 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
It's beautiful old
Yeah, it's a really
theater.
cool, legitimate proscenium, red curtain.
Yes.
Very cool.
So very, very cool. Show-stopping Jackie Hoffman, Lypsinka in all her glory, and this compelling newcomer, Jason SweetTooth Williams, excuse my voice.
That's all right.
All in Once Upon a Mattress.
lose the top hat, you'll go right to the top. All right,
Don't
thank
miss
you
it.
guys. Don't miss Once Upon a Mattress. See you next time on Broadway.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Genuine princess with feeling. If she doesn't, she's through. Get the tiniest pea and order one mattress. Don't make that two. Then I think would be plenty. Better still make it 20. God save the king!
So I am so delighted to be joined by my substitute co-host, Nancy Giles, my old pal from CBS Sunday Morning.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So today we are focusing on King Charles III, Mike Bartlett's highly absorbing and outrageous, and could it be prophetic, play about the British royal family. It takes place in the near future, after Queen Elizabeth has passed away. We are joined by members of its cast. Tim Pigott-Smith, who plays Prince Charles, who is finally, after 7 decades, getting to be king.
Not before time.
Right. Oliver Chris, who plays Prince William.
That's right, Prince William.
Rather Machiavellian fellow it turns out to be.
Well, I think he's a good guy in difficult circumstances.
All right. And Richard Goulding, who plays the dissolute and rather tortured
I'll go with Torch.
Prince Harry. Yeah.
And Dissolute. Disolute's good.
This play was an enormous hit in London. It is loved by the critics here, and yet it's quite disrespectful, I think, to the royals.
No, I don't think it is
You don't think it is,
disrespectful.
right?
I think if it was disrespectful, it would have died a long time ago. I think the thing I like about it is that it takes them seriously and writes them properly from the inside. And I think when they sent me the play, I don't know what you guys felt, I thought, a play about the modern royal family, this is going to be funny for about 10 minutes and then it'll die on its feet. But about 10 minutes in, you get to an amazing scene where Charles does something really surprising and the play takes off as a play in its own right. So
do you think that Charles in this play is akin to the real Charles?
Yes, I mean, people say to me, do I think it's possible that what happens in the play could happen? And I say, no, I don't think it is, but it's plausible.
Yes.
And I think the reason it's plausible that it's based strongly on common perceptions about Charles, whether or not they're strictly accurate, of course, we don't know. This is a fiction, but we know that he is a man who wants to be involved in the workings of kingship, whereas the Queen has always been objective. We know that he writes letters lobbying his point of view to parliamentarians and people like that. So this is what happens in the play. He becomes king and he wants to be hands-on. And
I think what's interesting is that you get to see the king as a politician as opposed to just a figurehead or trying to be one. And that's a view of the monarchy that I don't think many people thought of. I certainly didn't. I think of the headbands, the royal, the waves and all that stuff, but not really the makings of politicians.
Well, Shakespeare thought of it, and that's what's so marvelous, are the references to Shakespeare, which are subtly in this play.
Yeah, of
Does that
course.
have to
Yeah,
do?
well, I think it's the quality of the writing that really stands out. I mean, trying to pay homage to Shakespeare in this sort of investigation and adventure into the royal family is a dangerous task for any writer. I mean, it's the risk that you could slide into doggerel and pastiche.
well, it's like the second gimmick of the you get, as Tim said, you get sent the play and it's like, oh, about the royal family, nice try, and then you think, oh, you're trying to write like Shakespeare, nice try again, and it's sort of two things that could fall on their face, or implode together. But
unfortunately, the sheer quality of Mike Bartlett's writing is what has made this almost insane idea inflate into this fantastic, incredible production. He's taken a huge risk and he's completely nailed it.
I think he was way, way ahead of us all. We knew in rehearsal that there was some fun to be had in the play, there's some comic lines, but I don't think any of us realised how funny it really is. I mean, when Richard comes on, Camilla just says, Harry, and the audience laugh.
The humour was a complete surprise, as you say, and then actually you've got to go, actually, if they're going to enjoy this on that level, there's a serious 2 or 3 serious storylines through.
Right. Now, I mentioned that it was disrespectful, which you shot down immediately, but the one thing that I thought was very interesting, when you make your entrance, this topic, which is totally not dealt with in this country ever, of Harry's paternity, is immediately brought up in the play. And then later going on to Kate Middleton, making her rather scurrilous.
It's one of the interesting parts of this play, is one of the excellent qualities that Mike's written into it, is that all of the characters are pursuing their own agenda, but their own agendas are what they believe to be the right thing to do. So there's no, even though Kate has this huge speech about how she plans to connect with becoming the Queen when she finally does, and her history and her family being from such a different background to all of ours, a lot of people see that as very Machiavellian or quite Lady Macbeth-like, but really she's talking about the changing times, and she believes that a new era demands a new monarchy, a new role for the royal family, and she plans to embody it.
The most profound point that Mike makes, I think the Queen, who we know to be religious, believes that she is God's anointed on earth. I think if you pushed Charles, he would say under torture, yes, I believe that too, but I suspect in his skin he's only 75% there. But when you think of Kate and William and the way the monarchy will become, I can't for a minute believe that they will believe that they are God's anointed. Oh no, so there's a fantastic, something has got to happen to the monarchy when Queen Elizabeth dies, and what will it be? That's one of the reasons why the play was so potent in England.
Well, I would think also that Diana's influence over her sons was a big shaking up the monarchy kind of role. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Absolutely. Well, yes. I mean,
she dropped a hand grenade into the royal family, and
right.
and it was a hand grenade that was multiplied because she was just so globally iconic. The royals couldn't sort of hush her up or spirit her away because she became the embodiment of the royal family, and yet she was this, from their point of view, I would imagine, extraordinarily divisive and destructive.
there's
force.
another thing. Like she they were her sons. you
Yeah.
know. And the play about the royal family, it's Shakespeare, but it's actually about a family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what makes it a great play, I think. That it's like Shakespeare's best plays, it's a domestic drama.
Back,
with global sort
yes.
of
Like King
universal
Lear, you know, it's the
ramifications.
kingdom
Yeah.
and it's the family. It's,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Now back to Diana's hand grenade. But it's interesting though because
Is that a thing? Is that Diana's
now,
hand
it is
I
now.
love the idea that somewhere Diana had a hand grenade.
It'll be a hashtag.
Diana's hand grenade, hashtag, yes.
One thinks of
God.
you know, this little almost teenager who married Prince Charles, and then how she was transformed to some extent by his problems and his love for Camilla. But your Charles is really very sympathetic, and I mean that the Diana story cast him as a not very sympathetic man, but you're casting him as quite a sympathetic man.
No, I think the play does. The
Yes.
play shows him as a man of principle being overtaken by time and events moving faster. And funny enough, I don't know whether you guys feel this. The only area of the play that really upsets me when we play it is the area about Diana. I don't know why, but I just go, oh gosh, we're walking on eggshells here. You know,
Really?
it's the day when Diana died, and the week following that in London was the most amazing week. And I mean, we experienced mass hysteria, didn't we? I mean, people were, the flowers were 10 yards deep outside Buckingham Palace gates. People were walking down the Mall crying. I mean, it was extraordinary. Yeah. And, you know, we are dealing with people who live their lives in public, so I think that gives us every right to do what we do. But that one area of it, I just go, oh, God.
Well, the fact that Diana's there at all in the play.
Well,
I would say
yes,
it's quite-
probably it is. I mean, in the first scene, I walk upstage with my hands behind my back, which is a sort of Prince Philip gesture. But the thing I always remember, every time I do it, is Harry walking behind the coffin, on that morning, and you just go, that little boy, and what's happened to them? I suppose that's what it is. It's that area, isn't it? You know, actually, I think they're pretty remarkable, aren't they?
You know, I was wondering for all of you whether it was more difficult or what your approach was to playing live characters that are in the press, that were in the press, where you see their pictures and you guys, you know, you're all still alive, the actual people. Has that been kind of like wiggy?
There's a version of it where all of us try and do an impression of these people, and I think that might be possible in a different play. This is written in verse, so it sort of heightens it onto a different level of imagination, and I think that we have to do the play.
Rupert was always very clear that if we impersonated, literally,
the guitar.
the play would be dead on its feet.
So you're not trying to do Charles?
Well, no, but I use certain gestures, but that evolved through rehearsal, because you thought, well, okay, we won't impersonate, and then you thought, well, I am playing this
Live
character that everybody knows. And I had a friend who was an impersonator who I was working with when they sent me the play, and I asked him what he would do if he was doing Charles, and he said, well, he always does this thing with his cuffs, and he also does this thing with his signet ring. And then there's this way, he talks on the side of his mouth, like a bit like that. And there's another thing he does where his hands just hover outside his jacket pockets, and it's an action of such uncertainty.
Yes.
It seemed to me to capture something that had been written. But
In that sense, it's a real sort of outside-in exercise. In a way.
Yes.
I looked at a few photographs of Harry in the newspaper, and the way he stands, and just sort of used that occasionally in rehearsing a scene.
Sure.
Right.
And you do find a kind of point of view from a physical gesture or whatever.
Oliver, have you met any royals?
Yeah, well, when William found out that I was going to play him, he invited me to Highgrove for a game of polo and a kebab, and we sat round and we just sort of chewed the fat, as it were. And he just told me, look, just make sure when you play me, have more hair, be as awesome as you possibly can. It was great. We had a great day, and then we sort of had like a little pajama party sleepover that night.
Wonderful.
And I got helicoptered home the next morning.
Okay then. So we only have a minute left, but I do want to ask, questioning this concept of the royals at all. I mean, you say, they're in the public eye and they have to do this, but here they are, these people getting all this free stuff, all this money, this incredible position in life. And there's a way that as an American, I look at the royals and go, well, I see the tradition, but what's up with that? Did you ever have that jaundiced view as Brits, or you're just so respectful?
Oh no, I don't think. Well, I don't know.
I think England would be a better place if it was a republic.
Yes.
But I happen to be a monarchist. I like the monarchy.
Yeah.
Well, you
Why?
know, they look terribly good. The costumes are cracking. You know?
The costumes are pretty great. I know. I do
So it's
dig
the
that.
tourist thing.
It's a deep, deep ingrained cultural thing. Every country needs a figurehead. You have your president, we have our royal family. We've spent, since the Civil War, we've spent about 500 years lopping the limbs off our royal family and sculpting them into exactly what we need them for. And on the surface, they're expensive, but if you think how many I hesitate to say tourist dollars that they generate for us.
So it's tourist.
And I think, but not only that, but they provide us with a figurehead, and they provide us with a check and balance above what you can only really describe as the stultifying mediocrity of our politicians.
Unlike our fabulous politicians.
Oh, please.
If you were to get rid of the royal family, who would you replace them with? What? Tony Blair?
Ollie's right. There's something in our blood. Chesterton wrote a poem called The Secret People, you know, and we had a commonwealth in the 17th century and we didn't like it, so we just quietly went back to what we liked.
I think part of the reason why the play is a success is because we don't just blindly accept it in England, Britain either. There's a live debate about it.
Yeah,
massive. You know, we've got a strong left-wing press as much as a right-wing press, and it's live in the papers. That debate about is it a good thing or not, and that's what the play addresses, and therefore it's a smash hit.
A smash hit?
Yes.
A smash hit? King Charles III, now at the Music Box Theatre. We want to thank you all so much for coming.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theatre Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theatre Talk. Thank you